If you are a college student, undergrad or grad, or soon to become one, this message is for you. Odds are you see going to college as the key to your future, a good future, one made up of interesting work, financial security, personal stability, and so forth. Correct? You see going to college, earning a degree or several degrees as key because all your life you've been told college is the key to your having a good life. Also correct? Well, I am speaking to you now to urge you to do something for yourself and your good life future, a future still salvageable, but not for long. Before I tell you what that something is that you can do for yourself, let me tell you why you should do it. It's really very simple. Unless you have been asleep all your life, you know that climate change, global warming, or whatever you may want to call it, has been a growing concern among anyone willing to pay even the slightest attention. Now, it's no longer simply a concern. It's a threat, a growing, alarming threat that is coming at us full speed ahead from the future. Not from the future of the end of the century, not from the future of the mid-century, from the future of the year 2030. 2030 is our point of no return. 10 years. Why? A United Nations study by a team of international scientists announced in late 2018 that humanity has until 2030 to get off of fossil fuels or suffer what will be dramatic, perhaps catastrophic disturbances to the relatively stable world we live in today. Not just the faraway polar bears, not just the faraway polar caps, the whole world at every latitude and longitude and every inch of it. The scientific group is called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC for short. And if you want to check out their report, search IPCC Special Report. The report could make no specific predictions because the way the climate affects the world is way too complex to predict in detail, and because the ways we humans affect the world's climate are also complex. But taking everything into account, the report was very clear setting 2030 as the year by which we either put things right or lose environmental stability to uncontrollable forces with unknowable consequences. Those consequences, whatever they may be, will not be good. Not for the planet, not for humanity, not for you. Those consequences will take this relatively stable world we live in today, its seasons, its weather, its lands and waters, everything we take so much for granted now, and toss it into turmoil. The relatively stable world we have today will become and remain highly unstable, and increasingly so. And unstable for you means not just that you'll have to adapt in the future to unanticipated, perhaps sudden changes to your life, where you live, the water you drink, the food you eat. It also means that what you are doing right now, studying in college, pursuing a major you think will bring you some degree of personal and financial fulfillment, your pursuit right now may be an utter waste of your time, your effort, and your money. In other words, an absolute fool's errand. What I mean is, if the climate isn't addressed full throttle right now, that future you picture you are working toward will in 10 years begin to fade and fade and fade from sight. Who knows? Maybe it will vanish altogether. The IPCC report says we, humankind, have only 10 years to keep that future from fading. Humans in general would be crazy not to pounce on those 10 years. You, dear college student, would be especially crazy not to. Because after 10 do-nothing years, the world may so change, the world's economies, meaning all the ways people work and make a living, may so change that you could be left holding a useless degree, a mind filled with meaningless knowledge, obsolete skills, and a huge college debt. How about a metaphor? Suppose all your life you've been told your future is like a big swimming pool. There's a fun section for splashing around, a diving section for thrills, a laps section to work on grit and stamina and determination, a kiddie pool for raising children. And all your life, from the time you were little to now that you are in college, people have been telling you, learn how to swim, learn how to swim. You'll need it for that pool. And you have been learning how to swim so that one day you would be able to enter that pool on your own. But what if the pool is leaking water? Has been leaking water for years and years, gradually leaking, so that by the time you are really ready to jump in, the deep end has lost several feet. The shallow end is inches deep. The kiddie section is a puddle. And because no one did anything for so long, the leak can no longer be repaired. No matter what, it will continue to leak faster and faster, and eventually the pool will go dry. What then will have been the point of all the lessons, all the practice, all the sacrifice, all the promising talk of learning to swim on your own? Your future is, right now, leaking away. And what is anyone doing to ensure that you aren't just throwing money into a vanishing pool? What is your college doing to ensure that you aren't just throwing money into a vanishing pool? Your school is taking your money. What is it doing to protect your investment? Probably nothing. Or if not nothing, little. Certainly not enough. The most direct and effective thing you can do to ensure that your future doesn't go dry as a bone by the time you catch up to it is for you to pressure those in power at your school, to pressure those in power beyond your school, politicians, corporate leaders, etc., to move the world away from fossil fuels and toward renewable energies, and fast. Not in itty-bitty steps promising by 2040 this or 2050 that, as governments and businesses have been promising for years, but in big, bold strides, huge strides that cover a lot of ground quickly. 2030 demands huge strides. 2030 requires all the world's governments to take huge strides. But we have to begin with our own. Government, though, by nature, doesn't think in terms of bold and huge strides and won't take any unless forced to. For your sake, you and all the college students like you, all of you investing time, effort, money, and hope in the future, you must force government into taking big strides towards securing you a stable future. How? The how is relatively simple. You light a fire under the butts of those in power directly above you. They feel the heat and light a fire under the butts of those directly above them. And so it goes until those at the top of the power heap, those who set the world's rules, so feel the heat themselves that in order to keep from getting their butts scorched, they will take the bold action to secure your future and make sense of everything you are doing now. For example, I teach in the UMass system at the Dartmouth campus. If our students begin making forceful demands for a stable future, a stable 2030 and beyond, my chancellor is going to have a real problem on his hands. And if all the chancellors have a real problem on their hands, all the chancellors of the other UMass campuses also see students in big numbers making similar demands, they too will have a real problem. And when the chancellors of the UMass campuses get together and go see their boss, the system president, and say, we've got a bit of a crisis, students want action, not talk, the UMass president is going to have a real problem. And if other students at other schools In Massachusetts, start causing similar headaches for their chancellors and presidents, administrators across the Commonwealth are going to start making some noise in Boston, saying, "We've got a bit of a crisis. Students want action, not talk." And then Beacon Hill will have a problem. And the legislature will feel the heat, and the governor will feel the heat, and the people elected to Congress, the congressional representatives, and the senators, they will feel the heat. And if all this spreads from state to state, a whole bunch of governors are going to head to Washington, and the White House will feel the heat. It's pretty clear cut. Either you take action and make them feel the heat right now, or do nothing and suffer the heat yourself later on. So here's how you can begin to stir things up. Odds are that as a college student, you are entitled to something called a leave of absence. Check your catalog. I bet there's a section for it. Students take leaves all the time for all sorts of reasons. What that leave gives you is the right to take time off from college without losing your academic standing or credits or anything. Taking the leave has no effect on your GPA or your transcript or how anyone might read your transcript. Basically, it's like you pushing the pause button on your studies, and you don't have to make up a big song and dance why. At my school, any student who wants to take a leave simply checks 2 boxes and gets 2 signatures on the leave form, and they're done. And when they're ready to return, they simply email the school, and that's that. They can sit out a semester, or they can sit out as many as 4. A leave costs my UMass Dartmouth students nothing, and I bet your school's leave of absence policy would cost you nothing. But if those leaves cost the students nothing, they cost the schools a lot, because schools rely on each student's tuition and fees to help them run. So even a few students on leave can affect the school's operating budget, which typically has little to spare. What I am suggesting then is that you, your classmates, your roommates, your teammates, your clubmates, your faith mates, your fraternity and sorority mates, your friends at other schools, organize yourselves, band together, and plan together to take a semester off. Not everyone all at once, but over time, in waves, semester after semester, until those who have the power put your future, all your futures, back on the right track. And then tell your school, "Dear Chancellor, along with my friends Bill W. and Connie X. and Dave Y., I'm taking a semester off because the world, including this school, isn't doing what it needs to do to secure me the bright future this country and this college have sold me on. I might even take 2 semesters off, depending on how things go. Sincerely, Alice Z." Yes, you will lose some time on your way to graduation. But so what? Better to lose a semester now if it secures you years, even decades later on, and not only your years and your decades, but also those for everyone you love, those you might someday bring into the world to love. And who knows, come graduation, as you accept your diploma, you might even feel added pride for having taken action, for having taken a leave on your behalf and on their behalf. Even if just 5% of college students across your campus, across all the campuses of the U.S., and there are about 20 million college students in America, if 5% took a semester off, especially with the promise of more students taking more leaves in future semesters, it could have a huge impact. And if this caught on around the world, college students like you could rescue the future. Some students will say, "I can't afford to lose a semester." And I would say to them, you can't afford not to. You and your peers have 10 years to get the world in order. Your world, your future. Both depend on it, on you. This may be your best last chance. People my age have proven we won't do it. People your little brothers and sisters' ages can't do it, but you can do it. Because you hold the purse strings. Because your school is so dependent on your tuition and fees. Because colleges are so important to the world. You college students, you hold great power. Use it. Organize leaves of absence right now. So that is my advice to you about how you can provide a world for yourself before and after 2030. A world that will guarantee for you that college won't have been a waste of time, energy, and money. Protect all that you are doing now. For your own sake, take a semester's leave.